Alright, now it's time for your next dungeon, the Griever's Lair, which is, as I mentioned, a subway system, basically. And as you can imagine from some of the hints, this is the water temple equivalent, kinda, sorta. Although,
Damn.
definitely less annoying, because these were the years where it was cool online to say how much the water temple in Ocarina of Time sucks, which, for the record, it still does, mostly for how tedious it is. The Nintendo 3DS remake of Ocarina of Time really helped things off with the item management.
It's getting a bit dark. We're trying to kill someone who's grieving.
You'll see just enough of why we should still, kill this Griever.
I'm not finding a voice actress for her on
You'll see in a
IMDb,
second,
so...
Jova, don't worry. For now, let's just follow the rails, basically. The place is a bit flooded, but don't worry about it. Water manipulation will become a factor only later.
Some of these sewers interacting with the subway system don't really make sense when you think about them.
I mean, I think Vandal Game mentioned that a subway is really the first stage in the cycle of a life of a sewer system, so... Oh, we reached the station.
Hollows.
Mind the gap.
Oh, is this supposed to be Grand Central Station?
That's the Griever. It doesn't talk. It's a giant bug.
So, okay, yeah, I probably went under additional voices then.
I don't even know if it's a voice actor, doing something a la Frank Welker on grunts, or they just use some stock sound effects.
Interestingly enough, though, Ulthane did refer to her, well, as a she.
Yeah, you have a
so
point.
That's what kind of made me.
Yeah,
that's what kind of made me wonder if she'd have a voice.
Mostly because Bug Queen, so that's what we're going for with this. So you'll see just when we properly get our boss fight, because of course, as you can imagine, this is just the appetizer, especially because of that, orichalcum junk.
Does she have a cannon in her back?
No, those are just, tubes that she can release, her offspring with. But again, you'll see in her boss fight. Yeah, thank you, Watcher. Real cool. You're really helpful. Jesus Christ.
Watcher, don't make me bonk you again.
Also,
that said, apparently she means... Yeah, I was about to say, apparently Griever means business based off of all the angel bodies left in her way.
To be fair, as established, the remaining angels are not particularly competent at surviving in this environment.
Like, calling it now, Uriel only gets to survive because she'll need to help us out in the end with a last sacrifice of sorts.
We'll have to see.
Well, I guess that's a way to shimmy quicker than Wrath of Cortex.
Yeah, you will think that because of his bulky size, War will take its time to climb and doing the monkey bars, but no, you can just make him sprint.
Dude can be deceptively fast. I dig that in big dudes.
Alright, these are the Griever...
Hey, my pretties, fly!
Yeah, these are the Griever's offspring, these electric bugs, as you'll be able to see. They fall squarely into the category of annoying enemies that swarm you, but you can insta-kill them with a grab attack, as I think I'm about to demonstrate.
So the equivalent of bats or crows from Resident Evil, got it.
Like that. They do net a lot of, green souls, so it is appreciated. Alright,
green souls.
In order to progress, you need to actually find a small entrance under one of the underwater tunnels. Go on.
I do find it interesting that the game, and then maybe this is because we're on normal difficulty, but the game does seem to be relatively generous with the green souls regenerating your health and whatnot.
Again, it all depends on the difficulty, yes. On harder difficulty, obviously we gain less and we restore less.
Fair enough.
Alright, in order to progress, we need to reactivate the gas leak line. Again, good efficiency, but it works 100 years later. Like, where do we get all the...
I know, right?
Where do we get all the methane?
It's funny to imagine that the demons are just keeping these things intact because there's some tech bros among them.
Yeah, that we'll figure out. It kind of works with at least the TV adaptation of Left Behind. because again that one did went above just the first book, and apparently covers like the rise of the Antichrist and which becomes like a key figure in American politics apparently for the people that are teacherly left behind. So
How sad is it that the TV version actually made it to the good bits of Left Behind before the theatrical
here's the thing,
movie could?
the 2014 movie eventually did get a proper follow-up, but apparently it was a direct-to-video, and they recasted the character that was played by Nicolas Cage.
Nicolas Cage.
And they recasted it using Kevin Sorbo. So I haven't really seen it, but I have absolutely no faith, no pun intended, in the project.
Although I should mention, the 2000 movie actually did get a theatrical release. I think it was just limited, and
honestly,
after it came out on video.
Yeah, so the special effects were not. The production was clearly intended for it to be a TV movie, basically.
So let me guess, would that have been like the equivalent of Return of Jafar getting a limited theatrical release?
Yes. So.
Pretty much, okay. You know, I'm glad some people are lightening up on Return of Jafar. I get why that movie got a lot of slack in the day. It was the very first of these direct-to-video sequels, and originally it wasn't even supposed to be that. It was just supposed to be the pilot for the new series, but apparently Eisner really liked it enough to the point where he figured, yep, let's slap it on a box, sell it in stores.
Where, considering how much more garbage went after, people think, well, yeah, in hindsight, that wasn't particularly so bad. There was at least some effort put into it. Also, as I mentioned all those years ago, I still stand on me preferring Dan Castellaneta, compared to Robbie Williams as the genie. I know, super heretical thought, and I don't want to disrespect the memory, of Robbie Williams, but I'm sorry, I really just prefer Dan Castellaneta's impression for the character. More energetic and everything.
And shoot, while Williams did come back for free, Dan Castellaneta pretty much stayed the mainstay for Genie, and he seems to have
definitely recorded. They got someone else entirely, and I don't know why.
God, I forgot they had someone different for that because, well, I barely really remember much of the voices outside of the main cast in that one.
I think it was also the last occasion where Gilbert Gottfried voiced Iago. I think they did use like a recycled line for his one spoken line in Once Upon a Studio.
But yeah, no, like Return of Jafar, I feel is a case where, okay, looking back at it now in just its entirety, I do think it's still one of the better sequels, especially when you consider it was working with a much smaller budget than what the actual first movie had. I think it's still overall a relatively good plot. They gave Iago, of all people, actually not a bad character arc. Yeah, one that actually works.
Also, I don't care what people say about, finding Gilbert Gottfried's performance annoying. That's the entire point, an inside lair.
Yes! Look, telling Gilbert Gottfried not to be annoying, that's like telling a fish not to swim. Gilbert Gottfried is just one of those actors that gets that pass because that's the point of him. And he plays characters like that phenomenally. Hence why he is, to many people, still the definitive voice of Mr. Mixie Pitzel.
Spitlick.
That one's always hard for me to pronounce.
According to Comic Book Guy, both my pronunciation and Dweeb's are correct from the Comic Book Guy from The Simpsons. So take that for what you want.
I usually just go off of how it's pronounced in the Superman animated series, which was the first I ever heard it pronounced, so yeah. Good soul energy.
Yeah, so double your refreshment.
Going off of Undertale, though, since it's the green soul he's absorbing, that means he should be able to reflect anything.
I mean, yeah, to be fair, those are human souls, so it will check out.
God, when you think about it, that would mean boss monsters are OP in this universe from Undertale. In fact, given what's going on in this case, this is one of the cases where the monsters might be better off being trapped inside the mountain.
Mm-hmm.
The irony.
I mean, that would have been kind of one of a twist, you get to the pacifist ending, or everyone getting out, but they realize that instead the world outside has collapsed in the meantime or something.
I remember that funny comic with the pacifist ending where they get out and then a nuke's drop and Frisk's like, why do you think I even came to the underground to begin with?
I mean, if the child would have talked before,
You know, they treat it like the child can indeed talk to people, but obviously, I guess for you, it's your voice.
despite everything, yeah.
It's still you, yeah.
So there you go. There's still some level of water manipulation in this, but it's far more simple compared to the water tempo in Ocarina of Time, and the controls are far snappier. You don't have to have the problem of needing to have a specific piece of equipment in order to, go down. So you can kind of tell
Lovely.
that it was used as a Bible, but at the same time, the people, doing this were keenly aware of what it could, be considered annoying, and they decide to, work accordingly to it.
Which, I will give them kudos to. It does feel like, again, while this game is a little rough around some edges, I definitely see a project that the team put a lot of good thought into, since, again, they had a long plan in mind for this, and definitely wanted to make it as fluid as possible. And you know what? Maybe for the time it came out, this was the most fluid thing possible. I know that some of our critiques do come from here and there, but like
was the PC version where it came out originally, 2010. Well, no, I can imagine it function, but maybe it did not have the most pristine performances. But the PS3 and Xbox 360 versions were locked at 30 FPS and had more jagged outlook. So this War Master edition that you're seeing, is more polished as a result. Anyway, new gadget type, specifically a new weapon, and it's finally time to get rid of those pesky Orichalcum blocks, because War gets a special gauntlet to use as a secondary.
it's like a glove.
Literally.
Ice is
The
nice.
Tremor Gauntlet. Well, no, like I said, more Orichalcum than anything.
Weird, it looked like ice from how those spikes popped up.
Alright, so
And look,
I
some enemies to test it out on.
Well, yes and no, because arguably this weapon is not particularly useful against the big enemies. There is a bit, better work in crowd control, but otherwise, you better just stick to your Chaos Eater or Chaos Bringer, I forgot the exact name, War Swords, But instead, the glove really fits more as an utility tool against those, Orichalcum spikes. Although, it's worth noting that you would think that the game, from this point onward, would just start spawning enemies that have specifically armor made with those, Orichalcum bits, just in order for you to use it, so you can break it and then, kill the enemies properly. No, not really. The type of enemies that show up never really have anything added to them that would justify you using that. It's only working for the boss of this level, the Griever, because if you remember from the brief encounter that we had with her, she has that Orichalcum protrusion in her thorax. So that's what we're gonna need to kill. But when it comes to regular enemies, no, you can just use the rest of your arsenal and you're golden. So,
I did find it especially weird. I found it especially weird that the first enemy they have pop up after you get the power-up is an enemy that, according to you, the power-up isn't even really good used against. Like, I feel like usually the design cue is, hey, player gets a new power-up, and you want to prompt them to use it, suddenly have a flock of enemies show up. And I guess they do have the smaller enemies show up later, but you pretty much wailed on them using the bigger enemy anyway.
I can tell this. One thing that this weapon can be really useful for is knockback, meaning that even if you don't inflict that much damage to the enemy, if say they're close to a bottleneck speed, you can just careen them through with that, even relatively bigger enemies. So it can be useful for that.
Nice.
Yeah, otherwise, it's just utility for crowd control, if you ask me. Especially right now, because you just obtained it, so it's not really that powerful. Like all the weapons that were obtained need to be leveled up to be decently powerful, but the point is that you get these relatively late, kind of at the halfway point of the game, so it really needs to catch up to the rest of your arsenal, unfortunately. Also, yeah, taking another thing from the God of War games, you can ride this enemy in order to inflict more damage to the enemy before killing it.
Crash of the Titans.
it's time to check up.
Yeah, God, that actually was one of the advertising lines, I believe.
Wouldn't surprise me.
Crash was no stranger to innuendos, especially with the radical entertainment era.
Well, that's the thing, Joe, but for what I've seen of their games, a lot of the humor there is just more in your face, for lack of a better term.
Oh,
I'm actually going to say juvenile, since you can literally have burps and farts during the loading screen on Tag Team Racing.
also instead the Nintendo DS version, I think, of Crash of the Titans does have the fart sound whenever Crash jumps for some reason.
Yeah.
So yeah, well done. You get a DS game with quite a lot of voice acting in it. But you also get farts.
Well, that's the thing. Most people regard the DS version of Crash of the Titans to be the best version of that game. Better than the Game Boy Advance version, and yeah, a lot of people argue better than the actual console version, since it feels like it has a more focused story. Cortex actually gets to be the final bad guy of that, essentially, and it makes more use of you actually getting to fight the bosses directly. Imagine getting to fight the bosses instead of fighting mook rushes.
And then the DS version of Mind Over Mutant came out.
Yeah, I had no idea what happened.
Yeah, like, I haven't played that one, but...
I got leprosy. So the gimmick for this room is a classic weight maneuverment through different options. Now, with your actor equipped the Tremor Gauntlet, you can also punch. There you go. Objects that you're normally transporting, so you can actually push them in better places with a faster, in faster time. Because otherwise, you need to just slowly move them like you have done, recently. As you can imagine, this is also the tool that will finally help you open those doors that you see in Ulthane's, backyard.
Although I do have to question the inclusion of a laugh track in the game.
Yeah, me too.
Yes, the DS version of Crash of the Titans. Again,
It's
I feel like
so
Radical...
insecure about it.
Look, I'm just gonna say it. I feel like the only reason Tag Team Racing didn't have that whacked out art style was because, I don't know, maybe it was too far into development before they could change it. Like, Tag Team Racing had kind of the feel of Radical Entertainment, but at least it was enough like what came before to the point where we were fine with it. After that, though, it felt like Radical Entertainment were just throwing everything at the wall to see what could stick. Everyone gets a redesign. Whacked and weirded out humor, essentially. Laugh track on the DS version, not on the console version for some reason.
Well, actually, I don't think Radical did the DS version.
No, they were just responsible for the console version. And even then, I don't know if they had their usual writing team for, the conceptualization of the story. Because if you know anything about Radical Entertainment, those were actually a game that were outside their field of expertise. Around the same time, they were developing the prototype games for Activision, and those are quite different, even in terms of story.
I mean, one thing that was about Radical Entertainment, one thing that was, I think, actually kind of funny was that in between Tag Team Racing and Crash of the Titans, they made Scarface The World Is Yours. Probably the most polar opposite you could get.
No, like I said,
from Crash. I mean, hell, even the composer was the same.
Okay, not the same.
And to be fair to Mark Barrel, he did a great job emulating the music style of the movie.
Alright, moving on.
Whereas a lot of his Crash music was average at best.
Oh, it was nice of her kids to not attack us while we were going across the road.
They did not notice me? I don't know.
I feel like that's something most annoying mukes would be... Oh. Speaking of Resident Evil, looks like someone's taking a cue from Code Veronica now. Ma'am, please, I just need you to file your taxes. Played you? Yes, her
Shut up,
roaring at us. Yes, her destroying bits of the building and roaring at us was part of her masterful plan to evade us.
You don't know, Jack.
What a scheming genius. I do get what you mean that I'm liking the Watcher for the most part. I will admit, there are some bits where it feels like they just give him a line to fill the void more than actually
it's more, noticeable in the cutscenes. Which is pretty much can be told for everything story-wise. Again, War doesn't really stop to comment on what happens.
I will say this, in this day and age, especially post-Arkham Knight, they would definitely be using Mark Hamill a ton more.
I get it, yeah, maybe that was one of the reasons they did not want to spend too much money on the budget for Mark Hamill. At least that's my speculation.
I'm not sure how expensive he is video game-wise. I know he's definitely a name that's, probably going to cost a penny.
Around this time he probably was, considering, remember, there was the big deal that he swore that he was going to, hang the Joker hat, after Arkham City because he believed, about the character to be done, considering that story. Of course, we knew that didn't, stick, but you get what I mean. There was a case of him having a specific set of code when it comes to voicing stuff, and sometimes. Even when he got paid enough, it was mostly for stuff that he could not, care or remember, like Goro Majima in the PS2 version of the original versions of the Yakuza games, which
I know
that someone finds it hilarious, but, when considering he doesn't even remember that, and I'm sorry, it's really another case where he sounded like in that case he was genuinely phoning it in. I'm not really shedding too much tears on the loss. And not to say that Matt Mercer is, a great replacement for it. He's fine, and, I understand him thanks to, all the blogs and what he says in stuff like Critical Role, but it's another demonstration of how I prefer the Yakuza / Like a Dragon franchise to stay firmly with its Japanese voice acting. I would have preferred, considering how they moved the setting to Hawaii, for example, in other games, to have the mixed voice acting a la Tekken, whereas the English character, the American character speak firmly with just the American voice acting, while instead, the ones coming from Japan just retain their ones. I get it, it's also for accessibility purposes for people who don't have the capacity to speed reading for the subtitles, but I think something is lost in that regard.
I do find it funny that we're kind of back to having English dubs as well. Like, a lot of people thought, oh, wow, they're moving away from English dubs for real, and now it's just subs or occasional English. Nope, now we're back to full English dub scripts, which makes me wonder, geez, what was even the point of trying to do it only subtitle?
For what, sorry?
For the Yakuza Like a Dragon games, cheaper purposes drove because it's worth noting that the older games were only text translated in English, and as far as I remember, at most only also French and German. Starting with the 7th game, they started to actually translate it fully also text-wise in Spanish and Italian at the very least in my language. So it was a policy that Sega had to start being more, diversified in its localization purposes for the territories it conveyed. It's the same thought process that they had for Atlus games. The one thing that I'm really glad that the Atlus purchase had for, by Sega's point, is the fact that they had the games, now properly being fully multi-file text translated outside of what originally was just catering,
Mm-hmm. I guess in that regard, that's good as well. I'm gonna go out on a limb here, though, and say that the main reason they eventually switched things up was when they realized also that accessibility was the in thing to do, and that's also probably part of the reason why we're getting at least English dubs, because people who don't have as great a vision or, like you said, can't keep up with subtitles definitely do appreciate dubs more in that regard.
Of course, that's also, tied to the fact that I argue still that the English dub as a whole of a product is not particularly great to begin with. Unfortunately, a couple of people like Yongi have been harassed over it, which is, eyebrows raising or at least groin inducing at the very least. And even if I still don't like his performance, that's not the constructive way to do criticism. Come on.
Yeah, my honest take is that, look, in this day and age, even if you dislike a dub, take it as a necessary evil, essentially, for people who just do it better with that. No one's forcing you to listen with it, and yes, I can get it that some dubs are disappointing when they replace stuff, but please, do not take it out on the actors. It's not like they're made of stone, or it can just always pick and choose, because as I go through the acting world, I do see that sometimes you really do need to take a role, especially if that is your bread and butter that you're making money off of.
I was gonna say, I wouldn't go harassing anybody.
Yeah.
Yeah, really don't. Look, here's the thing. In this day and age where companies are actually starting to listen to people who critique,
yeah,
but don't go too far.
Just use the quote from Gandalf from Return of the King. In fact, it's better if you don't speak at all Peregrine. So,
yeah. I said Gimli for a second.
No.
Hey, War, I think she likes you.
She's dead.
Well, she did like him.
Do us part.
Alright, and now it's time to properly break some more of those orichalcum stones that blocked us the passage. It is one of the more satisfying moments in the game, if I have to be honest, because, they've been harassing you, blocking the passage since the very beginning of the game, so this is a very good moment of vindication. It's kind of similar to the sensation that you get when you get the Mailbreaker armor in Castlevania Symphony of the Night. Sure, you can make the argument that it's very situational instead of working you for the entire game, but it's a specific way of feeling satisfaction, in the way a set piece is constructed, even for a brief moment, admittedly. So, I appreciate that. Also, what is this? I couldn't catch that. Some generic energy drink.
So, just to reestablish, this is the water temple, right?
Oh, as you can see.
Okay, I bring it up because there was a brief lava and earth section, and like you mentioned, apparently this game can be a little bit weird with what it deems an element or not.
See, the most, the most important part of this dungeon is the water, manipulation. It's just very tries to integrate that with the locale, from a post-apocalyptic Earth. What is considered the water dungeon is the rest of a subway. Again, it's something similar to what Nier did. Nier is a post-apocalyptic game, and its dungeons, for the most part, are instead just, human locales that have been reconverted. Your final boss arena is literally a conference room, that is used for stage productions. Again, it's kind of like the ingenious part of it. It's kind of similar to the reverse isekai trope, but because it's more of an aggressive way, the fantastical elements are integrating themselves to the real world. It gives a more cool vibe to it, rather than this character is being lost in New York.
Although, again, if I recall correctly, one thing that was a bit off was that it looked like the office was made for giants, because if I recall correctly, like the desk and table... Yeah. So it almost makes you wonder if, oh my god, has humanity shrunk, kind of like how Transformers Beast Wars established that the Transformers have taken on smaller bodies compared to their Gen 1 counterparts.
Like what, to spare on Energon?
Yeah, I think it was due to that and all that. Also more technically sleeker and more fluid bodies in that regard.
Also to sell different variants of the toys.
Yeah, it was pretty much a plot point when the equivalents of Optimus and Megatron eventually come into contact with their Gen 1 counterparts, because time travel, yo.
Also, wasn't Micronauts already a thing by that point?
Yes, I forget if they were owned by the same company
I think
at the
they're
time,
still
though.
Hasbro, you know, to an extent. The gimmick, in case you're into Nodwaves, is that they were people from an alternate universe where, in proportion, they are very small compared to us. So when infiltrating in our world, in our universe, they will do the Toy Story thing of mimicking action figures in order to mask themselves out of the public eye.
Hmm.
So the idea with Transformers Beast Wars is, get this, it's technically Transformers, Autobots and Decepticons, or Maximals and Terracons by that point, in from the future essentially, the deep dark future, but they go through a transwarp portal that takes them to prehistoric Earth, which conveniently means that the ship from Gen 1 is still crashed essentially at that point essentially. So technically they're ones in the future who interact with the ones from the past and whatnot,
I
in
hate
that
temporal
regard.
mechanics.
Beautiful, yeah. If our Cockroach, it literally culminates in a fight between Optimus Maximal and Megatron. Yeah, it's still called Megatron, but it's a different Megatron, essentially. Just takes a namesake. Fighting in Cybertron and then dunking themselves into a weird energy portal, essentially.
Also, doesn't it also involve Starscream's ghost or something?
Yes, Starscream's ghost from Gen 1 survived all the way down there, and I guess hitched a ride with them back to the past.
It's so confusing.
Yes. It's a good show, but God, it can be very confusing when you think about it.
Also, I can imagine the CGI has not aged the most graceful way.
Oh, no, it is not. Like, it was remarkable for the time it came out, but if you're familiar with the reboot debacle, you're familiar with this. Granted, there are some people who still do unironically legit like the look of it, so who knows, maybe a rewatch might help me see the potential.
So yeah, in this room, as you can see, we need to find a way to get up there in order to unlock the mechanism so that the stalactite can drop down. Again, it's still about the water manipulation technique that I did mention. Even if it's not, all over the place, you can still tell it's the core part of the dungeon. Again, so this is gonna be a thing that is gonna be partially lost in the future games, despite resembling more Zelda to an extent. But again, you'll be able to see when we get to them. Alright, now it's time, I think, to blow up the gasket.
Dare I ask if any of those features were sorely missed in future titles?
One or two things I think were missed, but I'll have to talk about it when we get to those, just to talk about how they work gameplay-wise.
Fair enough.
Alright, time to blow up the joint.
Lovely.
There you go. And by breaking down, we flooded it down the lower floor, which means that the water rises conveniently so we can get one of the keys that we need.
Nice.
And thankfully, since the floor is broken, you can just literally go down instead of actually having to retread the whole way.
Again, I do love how quirky the little musical jingles are. Like, for as deadly serious as this situation is, it feels like they like to poke at that little inner child or Zelda fan.
Mm-hmm. Oh. This is not the Griever, but definitely someone we don't want to deal with, so let's use these train wagons to our advantage.
Okay, so how long do we run into him?
We just
I
need
know
to
a set
push
piece when
it.
I see one.
basically to push it so we can bait these worm creatures in order to get these wagons so we can proceed forward without having to be caught ourselves.
Thank goodness those trains are strong enough to not get pulled in completely through the hole.
Dare I ask, what are they made of? What is the United States, train, metallurgic company states, whatever it's called, fabricate them with?
Given that we are now in the process of reviving a lot of our old locomotives, which are able to push modern diesels in this day and age, something tough. Quick, use those holy cars to blow them up. Or just do that instead.
Yes.
It's weird. It's weird. The way the cars fell in the cutscene
wait,
made me.
I'm sorry. Is there anyone else who want to join the parade? Jesus.
And then you get a recolor of Tiamat to join the fight, because why not?
No, Jova, don't worry. We get a recolor of Tiamat in the second game as mini boss enemy we had to defeat. Not kidding.
If anything, I was gonna figure they'd just recolor her for like a boss rush, but damn, or the sequel.
To be fair, like I said, developed very shortly after this, and like I said, it was done in a time where THQ, the old THQ, was kind of bleeding money very fast. So recycling assets was their, strategy to try to save a lot of time and effort. Which, to be fair, I can also understand. It gives some minor synergy when it comes to the worlds that they build in, but it needs to have, much like I said, for some of the enemies for Ratchet and Clank Rift Apart, it needs to have a bit of purpose. Otherwise, you just uncover the strings of a puppet.
It's kind of a shame, though. Like, from what you told me, the second game's supposed to be a prequel, right?
It's happening around the same time, kind of, sort of, because Death is visiting completely different locations.
I was wondering maybe they could just have it be Tiamat again, just maybe before we kill her.
The characters even mention that it's a completely different character, do not steal.
But you make it look exactly like Tiamat.
Well, not exactly, it's a body swap, but again, you'll be able to see when we get to it.
I tend to consider palette swaps basically identical, but fair beans there, different color.
Again, as a JRPG aficionado player, I learned how to tolerate more palette swaps and still consider them different enemies.
I'm fine with palette swaps too, for the most part. It depends on the context and whatnot. I will say, though, I always find it funny when people will talk up a boss about how it's the only one of its kind, it's the biggest, baddest, most legendary, baddest guy to face, and then you face basically another copy of him for a boss rush.
Oh, you probably wouldn't like Elden Ring on that front. Well, not for a boss rush, but it does have some, enemy types that are used as bosses, but then are repeated afterward. I agree only on one specific case, but I've actually been more chill on pretty much everything else. I think out of all the things to potentially, be disappointed about the game, that's not really a big factor, if I have to be honest.
I'm not even disappointed by it, it's just something that gets a chuckle out of me.
Also, we were talking about recycling assets, and try to potentially cover them. Then there's Elden Ring Night Rain, who says, "Hold my fucking beer," and literally uses bosses from the previous Dark Souls trilogy, and just as the basic plot excuse of very third-dimensional invaders brought in by the chaos of the plot. Yes, clearly.
But don't you see?
It's one of those cases where, it's blatantly obvious that they're just recycling assets, but it's so hilarious that it kind of circles around.
Oh yeah, sometimes if a game's just blatant with this or that, that can loop around from being annoying to being legit hilarious and kind of entertaining.
I know that the mobile, cooling game also did something similar to that to justify just, using the same kind of assets by having palette swaps of enemies and NPCs from both the console games, but I don't know the details. I only played it very briefly. Alright, time to move up. We're actually close to the boss fight.
Lovely.
No extra goodies there. Yeah, I noticed like a crack in there. I thought it was another hole where I can actually get into, but no.
I get your mindset. I always tend to like to search every nook and cranny I
Especially
possibly
because if you
can.
want to backtrack later, if you need to backtrack later to get more, you know, chests that you did miss, you will need to, you know, comb this place with, you know, top to bottom. It's one of those games where it's better if you try to clean up as much as you can on your first run, because otherwise, you know, you will have to comb very detailedly on your returning trips, and it's not super pretty.
Is there anything you're absolutely forced to have to backtrack for? Like, you know, oh, you don't have this certain ability yet, so you can't get it yet.
Some cases, but to be fair, those are, as far as I know, at most for the abyssal armor pieces. You know, otherwise they're just there for hard containers, so you can theoretically live without it.
And in regards to the abyssal armor, do they at least put those at like easy enough points to return to, so you don't have to go like deep
Yes
dive
and
searching
no.
or whatnot?
Yes and no. Again, like I said, each dungeon provides you potentially with the Horde Seeker perk, which highlights all of the treasure chests on the map if you're, you know, if you're attempt. But you need to find that first, which, to be fair, it's not super hard to find, but you know, you still need to physically obtain it rather than just being handled to you. So it's a case where the game still expects you to, you know, try to explore a bit.
Mm-hmm.
So yeah,
Good
for this,
thing War can swim.
yes, and can also hold his breath indefinitely. Like I said, apparently being, you know, a horseman allows him to just, you know, don't have any drowning skills problems. So yeah, again, the point of there you go of this room is to raise the water level again. You know, water temple inspiration to progress even further down the line.
Thank goodness we don't need any iron boots.
Like I said, you know, it's pretty clear that the developers made the controls to be as smooth as possible, so the experience will not be as excruciating as the actual water temple from Ocarina of Time.
It's a shame, like, for the most part, I overall like Ocarina of Time more than Majora's Mask. That's not me saying Majora's Mask is bad, mind you, just that. Again, I'm one of those guys who prefers Ocarina of Time overall because, you know, you got your classic Zelda and Ganondorf setup. Majora's Mask is good, it's just different hat. But I will say this, Majora's Mask handled water temples so much better than Ocarina of Time did.
Mm-hmm.
Just interesting because that game was practically back-to-back with Ocarina of Time,
Yes,
if I
it
recall
was done
correctly.
as a quick cash grab, also recycling a lot of assets and having the story justification of Link being flung into a dreamlike place that he's not even sure that, you know, he's also still in Hyrule or not.
Was Wind Waker getting a was Wind Waker having development issues or something?
Not really, no, but remember, Glibs, Wind Waker was in development, but Nintendo had also that infamous presentation at one of the E3 conferences to show the power of GameCube, which saw Link fighting Ganondorf in a style that closely resembled a more detailed version of Ocarina of Time, and of course instead while people were expecting that, what they got was, you know, Wind Waker. Alright, time to properly fight the Griever, and the first thing that she does is to fire the fucking laser which hits up the Orichalcum, meaning that you cannot destroy it until it cools down.
No fun. A tech demo made just to show the power of a console, but one that gets the fans hungering for a game that the company had no intention of making.
Tale is all this time. How ironic is that one of the few people who actually got that eventually through was fucking David Cage.
Jesus Christ.
We really live in the weirdest timeline.
Like, okay, to be fair, like, okay, if I recall correctly, the Kara project was also never intended to be a game, though he did pretty much say, hey, if there's enough interest, we'll do it, and I guess credit where credit is due, he did it. What I really don't get is, how did Square not think fans were going to...
You literally need to shank the Griever in the shins with a rail car.
It'd be funny if she clutches her knee in pain.
Ow. So yeah, then she starts shaking out so that stalactites falls, meaning that you cannot adjust the potentially push it immediately against her.
I really don't get though. Okay, Nintendo are one thing, like, you know, they're the kings of left field, and, you know, to their credit, it's not like they had a whole project tied to that thing. I don't get what gas Square was sniffing to think that fans wouldn't be demanding a 7 remake after that tease.
I have to break the fucking thing.
Right in the ball.
So yeah, these are what the tubes are for. To produce more of their offsprings.
Lovely.
You know, someone probably was a fan of Starship Troopers with these designs.
Yeah, I can see it.
Are you doing your part, Leaves?
What exactly?
Don't worry, Leaves, you'll understand in due time.
Libs, all for the sake of her, or in certain other cases, Super Earth.
Yes. I still understand.
I'll just stick with regular Earth, thank you. I'm not sure what the whole super thing is.
I still really don't understand why are we getting, you know, an actual movie based on Helldivers 2, because again, it's literally just Starship Troopers. No matter how, you know, close to the source material you get, you're gonna, you know, it's gonna be feel like it's an actual rip-off.
Theory time! Helldivers was easier to get the license for than Star Troopers.
Starship Troopers, I guess, maybe. Alright, so after you break the first time the fucking thing, the next time you shank the Griever in the shins, you just need to pummel it with your sword.
Oh, so like Metal Gear Rising Revengeance.
You need to, you know, expose the juicy interns, you know, either to puncture, you know, the crustacean exterior, to expose the juicy interns.
How dare you! Only my husband gets to pound my juice!
This future truly is fucked up.
Yes.
She shits out locusts.
Again,
her
her
kids.
progeny.
They grow up so fast, ready to murder us.
No, really, literally.
Yeah.
I think you even get an achievement if you manage to trick the bugs into being destroyed by the lasers enough times.
Wow, some mother you are. Your kids come out of the womb ready to fight for you, and you kill them.
Oh well.
Are you proud of yourself?
It's the circle of life or something like that. You have to remember that this thing is supposed to be a demon, you know, one of the chosen ones that were somehow, you know, literally chosen by the destroyer.
You know, Ulthane talks about how he had to seal her away, but like, with how she could fly, couldn't she arguably have flown over the boundary he set?
She cannot fly, she just, you know, crawls out of the... But you still raise a good point, she could have crawled out of, you know, the place one way or another.
And her progeny clearly can fly, so, what gives?
Alright, time to extract.
Alright, Dr. War. Time to do some heart surgery.
Well, first of all, we need to make sure that the patient is immobilized.
Good. Sure. Now don't put up too much of a struggle.
Dr. War.
Oh! He's gonna try and ram a train into her! Jesus!
Okay, James, again, you're the wrestling fan, but did someone try in a match to close someone inside a car door or something?
It's happened a few times, yeah.
Figured.
Huh.
I don't know why there was a fade flag.
I mean, there are matches as well where the literal aim of it is to chuck someone into a coffin or rubbish bin or ambulance and shut the door.
Fair enough.
Look at the violence we have wrought. I swear to God, if this game really tries to go you're the real monster
No,
for
don't
killing
worry.
these demons. Thank God.
Two to go. You might make it to the tower after all. Then the
How encouraging of you, Watcher.
Now, let's get this thing back.
Hey, Luke, don't go quoting your father like that.
Alright, tune in for the next part where we return to Ulthane to give him the good news, and then we go to Samael to give the heart and learn the next location. See ya.
That's how.
See ya.